Something a lot of archers and coaches ask me about is my shooting stool. Where can I get one from? Well, my shooting stool was made for me by the University of Loughborough. It's custom made and it's built to my specifications. Therefore, you can't get it off a shelf. What I can do though is advise you as to what you should be looking for in a shooting stool. So let's start with the rules. Firstly, no back. It's a stool, not a chair, so it shouldn't have a back. Secondly, looking at the dimensions, it cannot be longer than 80 centimetres from the back of the stool to the front of your feet, and it cannot be any wider than 60 centimetres. So as long as you fit within that 80 by 60 dimension, you're absolutely fine. Moving on to height, no rules and regulations about this, all depends on your height. Now there's no quick way to figure out what's the perfect height for you, it's just a case of trial and error. The one bit of advice I would give is that a common mistake that many archers make is they try and prop themselves up as tall as possible. And this is more apparent with the archers that have started shooting standing up and then moved to a shooting stool later on. This is because they're trying to recreate that feeling of shooting standing up. So they make themselves as tall as possible, knees are quite often locked out, and there's a lot of tension there, so it's not good. We do want to see a bend in the knee, and it makes sure that the weight spread across the stool much more evenly as well. So whilst you don't have to be sitting down as though you're on a chair, really low down, you can be elevated quite a way, but make sure there is a bend there if it's comfortable to do so, of course. Seat angle, again, trial and error, finding something that works for you. Now, how I figured this out was actually my prototype stool was made for me by one of my teammates. He welded together two bike frames and we stuck a bike seat on the top, and it was really easy to move it up and down and change the angle of the seat as well. Of course, not everybody has the facilities to do this. If you can't find somebody to make one for you, I know people who've had success with things like shower stools, drum stools, ironing stools, perching stools. So just try something out and see if you can figure out what you can with what you've got. Stability, very important. Archery is all about consistency, all about repetition. And you do not want your stool to move because it changes everything. My stool is really solid, super heavy, can be a bit of a nightmare to carry around, but it works really well. I use a bike seat on mine. Cyclists tend to have big springs in bike seats. I'm sure it works wonderfully for cycling, but you don't want to be bobbing up and down in archery when you're trying to aim your bow. So I ended up taking all that out and making the bike seat that I had as solid as I could. So that stability is super important. Another thing that I did was I made sure I could peg my stool down so it didn't move around when I got on and off the stool, and that was very helpful. The last thing that I would like to point out is that when you are shooting sitting down, you're drawing the bow back, you can't use your legs as a lever. And a lot of people seem to think that your legs aren't very important, but believe me, when you're trying to pull a bow back sitting down, you do end up using your core and your bow arm a lot more. So you might need to go and do exercises for this to strengthen these areas, or you might need to put your poundage down slightly when you move to a stool or start shooting sitting down. So I really hope that's helpful, and if anybody does have any questions, I'm always more than happy to help.